Hello and welcome to today's webinar, The Low-Hanging Fruit of Document Automation, Finding Places to Get Started. I'm Teresa Resick, Director of Webinars here at AIIM, and AIIM is your host and producer of today's event. And with me today are Thomas Lamont of AIIM and Ian Bamber of Bottomline Technologies. Bottomline is the underwriter of today's webinar, and we thank them for their support, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. And as we're getting started here, just want to offer a few pointers for viewing today's webinar. By joining the webinars live, you can customize your own viewing experience, so feel free to open or close or resize the different windows on the screen. And across the bottom of your screen is the list of all the widgets that are available to you. Group chat is available, and that is something that you do have to open, and you do that by clicking on the group chat icon in that list across the bottom. And with this group chat, you'll be able to talk with each other, but also be aware that everyone will be able to see everything posted in here. And it's a great tool. I encourage you to join in. Do ask questions of the speakers throughout the hour using the Q&A feature. That's to the left side of your slide area. We will hold these questions until the end, where we should have about 5 or 10 minutes to answer them. You can also use this feature to ask for technical assistance. You can download a PDF of the presentation at any time. Just look to the resources list. That's on the right side of your screen. There are also a few other documents and links in there to help you learn more about today's topic. So just click in there at any time, and the resources will open in a new browser tab, and you can save that off and read it after the webinar. And at the end of this webinar, a brief survey will open in your browser, and we'd appreciate it if you take a few moments to offer your feedback and to suggest other topics for us to cover. You can also access this survey in the list of widgets. And this webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted to AIIM.org's Resources Webinars page in just a few days. And now to introduce the speakers that we have with us today. Thomas Lamont is an AIIM Market Intelligence Analyst. He is very well versed and credentialed in the fields of ECM, ERM, and BPM, with a heightened focus on solving operational problems of today's businesses. Globally recognized as an industry thought leader, Thomas's opinions and views are highly sought after by business organizations of all sizes, from both the consumer and supplier communities. And we also have with us Ian Bamber, and he is head of products at Bottomline Technologies for their financial document automation solutions. And that is for both their inbound and outbound documents. Ian has over 20 years of experience working in product functions for many large organizations. So right now, I'm going to turn things over to Thomas Lamont of AIIM to begin our conversation today. Thomas?
Yes, thank you, Teresa, for that great introduction. Hello again, everyone. Welcome in. I wanted to kick things off with an announcement. The robots are coming. In fact, they're already here. Perhaps in recent times, you've been hearing a similar refrain in conversations offline and across the internet. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and of course, automation are changing the world, and eventually they're going to change your life too. And so the way I see it is that we all have a choice to make. A, you can either resist, prepare to fight tooth and nail this robot uprising before it's too late. Or B, you can not do that and rather begin to leverage these new tools for business value, delegate manual tasks, and improve your life as well as the organization. So for now, I'll assume everyone choosing A is often that important mission. But for everyone else today, we also have an important mission. And that's going to be discussing how to glean value from automation, specifically document automation and solutions designed to automate documents through capture, creation, collaboration, and communication. And so while at first glance, maybe many are thinking this, getting started with automation can seem often very mystifying. It's like this murky water is how I think of it. It's very difficult to assess just how deep or how costly it would be to jump in. And you may wonder where to get started and where these low-hanging fruit exist. But my contention is that our organizations are already evolving the infrastructure for automation technologies to be successful and thrive. And in fact, changing business demands are opening up these places for us to start. So it makes a lot of common sense of where to begin with document automation. And so we see this best with the evolution of documents. Today we live in an age of information. Documents are an essential business asset. At the same time, the volume of all these documents are exploding. They're going digital. and documents bombard us from many sources, from data silos or customer systems that lack integration. And altogether, there's this pressure that's building, and there's this competitive need to go beyond information management at the speed of paper, beyond simple search to total findability of content. And we achieve this, or we fall behind competitors. So at the same time, we are evolving too. Everyone, no matter your job description, is an information professional. And it's integral to guarantee that information is easily and quickly and accurately distributed to fuel the duties and functions of information workers. And for this matter, the emerging technologies like document automation are essential. In this kind of new world order, manual data entry, paper processes, and anything less than kind of an increasingly omniscient total view of information won't make it into this next generation. These aren't the traits of success. And now with workers tasked with doing more things with our information than ever before, we're being tugged apart in so many different directions to create information opportunity. We're getting to the point that humans just can't keep up with their information demands. So meanwhile, processes are also evolving. And it seems today that everything has more and more moving parts. Personally, I have a daughter, and she's 2 years old, and she has some toy bricks, but they're nothing like the toy bricks I had or had when I was a child. There's lights and sounds, and they may even have internet access, I'm not really sure. And this is doubly true for modern organizations with moving parts. It's just so hard to keep up. And I expect this frenetic pace is something a lot of you have experienced when it comes to documents and document processes. So adding to the volume and growing congestion of documents we face, other problems too. Important documents come from many sources. Data silos are commonplace. What do you do when digital documents can't be interpreted across systems without manual reentry? And integration of systems and key workflows is becoming a prerequisite to successful companies. So altogether, this evolution of information, people, and processes, this triad, it's creating this perfect storm for document automation solutions. And so with that said, this leads us to our first poll question of the hour. So we're very interested in seeing what you are all feeling and seeing on the ground. So I please invite you to return to your keyboards for the following question. So what are the top 2 challenges your organization is facing around document automation? Is it the creation of new documents in all forms and formats? The delivery, getting the documents in the hands of your customers? Is it collaboration, storage and access, visibility, seeing, delivery, and receipt notifications, etc.? IT dependency, or something else? So please lock your answers in at this time. So it looks here we have an even split of collaboration, storage and access, and visibility. And that's not surprising. Visibility is one of the main pain points that we see in our research here. So with the results in AIIM, we kind of heard my take on things in the context of where we are. But what do you and Bottomline Technologies make of these numbers? Do they surprise you, or do they fall in line with what you would expect?
Thanks, Thomas, and hello, everyone. So I think these fall pretty much in line with what we would expect. So you used the word evolution earlier in your introduction, and I think that's a great term to use. Most organizations, or many organizations, have solved the challenge of how they take output from their ERP and line of business systems and create these critical business documents. So that's kind of a solved problem for lots of organizations, and the evolution of that process is to move to more kind of value-added extensions to that process. So how do I collaborate with my customers and suppliers? How do I ensure that I correctly store the documents in both a compliant way, but also in a way that's easy to access, so I can very quickly gain access to that critical content? And then visibility is important, the ability to improve a business process, which these business documents absolutely sit around, is the ability to improve that process. Visibility is fundamental to that. So I'm not surprised at all by these results. They're absolutely consistent with what we see from our customers.
Excellent, Ian. Thank you. So I guess to deal with this changing nature of business, right, we need to embrace technologies like document automation. And so how do we do that? How do we work smarter, not harder? You know, but before we can kind of talk about and discuss where this low-hanging fruit would exist in this topic, right? We need to know how people are approaching this right now. What are the obstructions, and really what are the benefits laid out to us? And the truth of the matter is, working smarter, not harder, is easier said than done. There's uncertainties in cost, an unknown learning curve, an untested ROI, prevent organizations from moving forward with their document automation projects. You know, and also at the same time, traditional ways of working are hard to change. You know, old habits die hard. We know how difficult change management can be. And to break through this gridlock, looking to some AIIM research in a recent Industry Watch report, we know that 57% of respondents plan to leverage education and training to break through organizational gridlock, followed by communicating motivations for change and sharing the vision. But in all ways, the fruits of our labor are worth it. And there's many benefits that document automation can provide an organization. First, you know, document automation can provide a user-friendly, accessible window into business information and documents through their life cycle. And this life cycle shouldn't end just because information leaves the corporate walls. It also reduces time and cost associated with going live, as well as faster operations and response times to get closer to customers, which in this dynamic business landscape is a huge asset to be able to quicken that communication with our suppliers, and also internal employees as well. Automation also provides track and trace to increase control and visibility over financial documents, you know, thereby shoring up document security and lessening regulatory compliance risk, which are two major pain points and concerns, especially in modern organizations today. There's also the benefit of fueling informed business decisions. And finally, providing anywhere, anytime content access through cloud-ready, mobile device-enabled solutions to meet this growing expectation of workers who want to work how they live. People are tired of working with these enterprise not very user-friendly systems and really want a consumer-grade experience. So typically, how are organizations deploying document automation solutions? And we know that from AIIM research, 64% of respondents' automation projects are led by IT and IT services, and 57% by C-level executives. So the majority rely on IT, and the problem is there's limited resources of IT, as many would know, and overstrained IT resources can be a huge burden. So to these ends, there's also another alternative option for document automation that many organizations, a number of organizations, are looking into now. And that is managed services, basically relying on a third-party solution powered by the cloud to take care of that infrastructure for you. And many of these solutions offer an out-of-the-box, ready to go, you know, personalized, delivered document output right from the get-go. And there's also 360 degrees of awareness with track and trace wherever documents travel, and this is all handled through the cloud via multiple deployment architectures from, you know, on-prem to hybrid to third-party. And so would managed services be a potential solution for your organization? So we know that 37% of respondents report utilizing third-party hosted document processes beyond scanning, and 40% are on course to do more of the same in the future. And that's a significant amount of organizations looking to kind of third-party solutions. And there's many reasons why a third party may be a good fit. And some of the benefits include, you know, greater adaptability to evolve and scale and upgrade the system as needs change. And a lot of that burden is not left on your internal resources. There's also improved accuracy through automation, you know, freeing up labor resources, more value-added, interesting tasks, the things that matter to the enterprise. And there's resistance to volume fluctuations and offload risk. So you don't have to worry about any type of labor imbalances as far as if certain amounts of work ramp up you always know that with a third-party solution, there is that resistance to volume fluctuation. So basically, at its core, it's about outsourcing these pain points of building up document automation infrastructure and letting someone else kind of worry about that, to focus more on value-add work and those things that do, in fact, matter to the organization. So with that part of my presentation done, I want to pass the reins over to Ian of Bottomline Technologies. And personally, Ian, I'm really interested in what you're seeing on the ground and what Bottomline Technologies is dealing with and their perspective on this topic. So, Ian?
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas. I'll pick up from there. So, yeah, I'll spend a couple of minutes just talking about what we see with the customers and prospects that we work with. So I think there's a few key themes. So I think overarching is around efficiency, and that means a number of different things. That means how solutions that organizations are implementing ultimately impact the business process that they relate to. So when we talk about business documents and document automation, the document it's a tool, it's a vehicle, and when we're talking to our customers or our suppliers, the purpose of that document is to continue a business process. If it's a sales invoice, for example, you send that out because you want to get paid. So the ability to be able to effectively communicate in a timely and correct manner that the recipient of that document can easily consume can have a direct impact in terms of how efficient you are at collecting cash. So it's not about the technology solution. It's around the value that the technology solution can drive to support an improvement in business process. So I think that's important. We're also seeing more a desire for organizations to achieve time to value in the shortest possible time. So when we talk about managed services, so the delivery of software as a service, that enables customers to kind of get a return on investment very quickly. And also some of the improved intelligence and insight we can deliver with managed cloud-delivered services helps customers actually demonstrate the value that they're returning as well. And as I said when we were looking at the results of the first poll, so many organizations have kind of taken the first step in terms of that sort of process and document automation, and they've kind of improved their processes inside the firewall. But it's when you step outside the firewall and you start to communicate and collaborate with your customers and suppliers, that's where the next step, the kind of evolution in terms of the value that can be delivered from document automation can come into play. So I think those are the key things that we're seeing. And actually, sorry, I missed a key point off there, which is around service to customers and suppliers. So Thomas, you used the point around competitive differentiation. So in many industries where you may have a commoditized type product, or in manufacturing where price, you can't compete on price, maybe a low margin business, that kind of thing. Organizations are increasingly looking for different ways to differentiate, and service can be a key part of that. So presenting communications, key business documents, things like invoices, statements, in a way that can easily and readily be consumed by your customers and suppliers can be can make a kind of key difference in terms of the quality of service and the quality of relationship that you can have with those trading partners. So those are the key things that I think we're seeing. Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks, Ian. And so here's one thing that really challenges value, as you're mentioning, and this is do you suffer from blurred vision and lack of visibility? Ian, I really like that idea. You talk about this new frontier of stepping out of the firewall and extending, documents and value past the corporate walls. This seems to be where organizations really need to be looking and see how far they can extend their reach, basically, with their services and their ability to send documents out and gain value from that. So again, do you suffer from blurred vision? So I want to open up another question to the audience. When it comes to document management, does your organization have a real-time visibility into the delivery and receipt status of documents? Yes or no? This question is talking about visibility. Are you able to see and keep track of where your documents go and where they move all through their life? All right, and we'll revisit those results in a bit. But judging by AIM research, I'm expecting a lot of no's to that question. So a lack of transparency and visibility leads to a lack of control over your documents and information. Recent AIM research would know that 39% of respondents are challenged with poor insight into their business operations. And when you have a total view of your documents, a point of view that doesn't end after documents leave the corporate walls, you can more easily maintain compliance to regulations, safeguard sensitive data from security breach, and also it provides a boon to productivity. Document automation is one possible solution to provide this kind of 360 degrees of awareness. I know that sounds a bit marketing cliche. 360 degrees of awareness would be a huge asset, just the ability to have greater visibility into everything that's going on. Imagine the ability to make changes and improve processes and take care of bottlenecks and things of that nature. And this is all necessary to keep up with these evolving demands of people, processes, and document content that's transforming around us. And seeing is, of course, believing, right? So we know when we ask the AIM community, where has our organization seen the biggest value to be gained from process improvement and automation, 56% of respondents have seen the greatest derived value in the speed of critical business processing, reduced errors and exceptions for 47%, and increased visibility. So it's really the results, and the community speaks for itself here. So Ian, how has document automation technologies helped flip the script for people suffering from these awareness and visibility challenges at Bottomline? Returning to that survey, AIM research has consistently pointed to visibility as a top enterprise challenge. So let's revisit those results, and I'll open the question up to Ian. Are you surprised by these results? Has this been Bottomline's experience as well?
Okay, so just looking at the result there, and thank you, Thomas. So 33% of people saying they do have real-time visibility into the receipt and status of documents, so 2/3 of organizations do not. So that doesn't surprise me at all. And again, so in our experience, we think what we see is there's a kind of shift in terms of the awareness of the opportunity that modern cloud technologies can bring to these communication processes. And it goes back to that kind of point I made earlier around solving the internal challenge behind the firewall, and then as you reach outside the firewall and communicate with your customers, suppliers, your supply chain in general, achieving visibility through that process is kind of a challenge that organizations now realize they have. So typically we're communicating via email, right? And email is great. It's generally reliable. Most of the emails we send are received by the people we send them to. But when you hit send on an email, what does that tell you? The only thing it tells you that it was sent. And if you're an individual, just kind of sat with your mailbox and you're sending emails out to your colleagues and customers and what have you, you know pretty much based on the response whether or not they've got that. If you translate that into a business process, something like, say, for example, a statement run or an invoicing run once a month, you might be sending out thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands of documents. So knowing whether those have been delivered to the recipient and whether they've taken action against them is a real blind spot for many organizations. So that's where we see and where we feel that the cloud technologies delivered as a service have the ability to kind of bridge that gap between what happens on your internal processes behind the firewall and what happens when you reach out to your customers and suppliers with those communications. And with the power of the cloud, you have the ability then to see not just that you send something, but it's been received by the intended recipient and ultimately how they've interacted with that. And if you tie that back to a specific business process, say, for example, sales invoicing, if somebody doesn't receive an invoice, you're pretty sure you're not going to get paid for it, right? So knowing that the intended recipient has got it and they've taken some action against it can have a real positive impact in terms of that business process. So, thank you, Thomas. Hand over back to you.
Thanks, Ian, and well said. I really like that idea of blind spots and how a lot of organizations can definitely identify with that, having blind spots. And I think what it really speaks to is moving from this kind of more reactive, place with how you handle document management or even across verticals. Say you're doing this in an AP or AR setting, and moving to something more proactive. So, we've discussed the factors precipitating document automation, right? And we've talked about the fruits of our labor. Why are we doing this? So where are those low-hanging fruit? Where do you start? So in the recent AIIM Industry Watch report, we found that 81% of respondents are honing in on accounts payable and accounts receivables as this kind of new first, initial place to trial document automation solution. So in effect, finance is the most apparent low-hanging fruit of document automation. And there's many challenges in the finance department. As we know, financial processes are in many ways one of the most critical processes for any business. Improper AR management can lead to unhealthy cash flows, unpredictable DSO or exception reconciliation, and worst of all, a lack of transparency. And what a lack of transparency or visibility means is honestly a lack of control over financial information and processes, which is a dangerous position to be in. And document automation solutions can truly directly speak to these pain points and try to shore up some of our weaknesses here. So the goal would be to transform finance with automation and change, if we're anchored to paper processes, we want to move to digital. If we're anchored to digital, we want to move to something more automated and more value added and remove those manual tasks. And here it is again. It just seems that a marriage of finance and document automation is a perfect match. We have 28% of respondents report making above average progress in automating AP and AR, which happens to be the highest category of business processes we surveyed for. So just imagine a scenario where valuable bandwidth of your AP and AR workforce is spent doing the tedious manual tasks, to mail things physically. Paperless operations truly frees up these human resources, cutting down on that duplication and error-prone work through automation. And that's really the goal, just looking for these places of quick wins to change our processes just for the better and have more visibility and control over our data to avoid those types of problems we talked about, security breach, regulatory compliance issues, things of that nature. And truly, these benefits, they all come at the right time because, the business is evolving. We are evolving. Documents are evolving. And this is a new age of information. 38% response. 30% of respondents said they now receive more digital invoices than those in paper form. And this is something that we really need to keep track of because, things are changing for the digital future. And the way forward is becoming digital. At the same time, there's truly 5 benefits that AR and AP automation provide. And that includes visibility and control to make informed business decisions with payment insight, compliancy to local and global regulations, enhanced reporting and real-time analytics, and faster, less costly dispute resolution and reduced DSO and processing costs. And the trouble is there's countless stories of customers who just refuse to believe that electronic invoicing is anything more than a trend, or that documents aren't moving to digital. They swear on their paper processes. And as we mentioned, old habits do die hard, and change management is a big problem. But it's not an excuse for us to strive, for us not to strive to improve our operations and comply with best practices. The way forward really is digital. And we need to be doing our part to see where our organizations can improve. Because, document automation solutions, they provide some very sophisticated control over our documents. Automating payment processes is a night and day difference in AR and AP. We have process triggers, that map workflows, financial information exchanges. And by using triggers that activate when important events happen, you can prioritize your receivables and compress that time required for tasks and improve value and impact identification. it really gives us real-time, it's a real-time data-driven approach to maximizing these cash positions, which is hugely important. And as we talked about, there's some voices that say that documents are truly the new currency of business. Information is the new currency of business, and it should be supported and managed at the same level as our human resources as well as our monetary resources too. And of course, anywhere, anytime content access. It's becoming business critical to get the right information into the right hands at the right time. And cloud and mobile offers many benefits, right? So we have faster accounts table process cycles, reduction, storage, and retrieval costs, which limits exposure to compliance issues, improve financial reporting, and increase visibility and collaboration within the AP process. And these benefits, they're supported by the wisdom of the crowns again. So how are mobile and cloud impacting your processes? And we find that 40% of respondents say the biggest impact of mobile and cloud for them is increased speed and access to data. So again, I want to open up this question to the floor here in the audience on this webinar. So what are the barriers to moving your processes to the cloud? Select all that apply. And these include lack of control, security risks, resources, cost, or none. We are pursuing cloud initiatives. Thank you for that. And we will, again, return to those results in a bit. But first, I kind of want to just close with, exactly how do you start, right? What do you need to do? What are these quick wins and, realistic goals for moving forward? So the first thing is you need to have an automation focus. You need to have these realistic goals of a very clear vision of what you want to do with this space, and to do that, we really need to make this whole kind of document automation project a process. It needs to be a continuous effort. We need continuous effort and improvement, basically project for the project, right? And so we need to find leadership, and stakeholder participation is a vital part of this. And any project leader understands that without clear leadership, the project falls apart. And one important thing about document automation, especially as it's applied to finance and financial document automation, is that it includes more than just invoices. It honestly includes all the variable documents and contracts and things of that nature that you would deal with in finance. And these types of solutions can be extended across the business and to other departments and verticals, from HR to case management and or reviews and approvals and things like that. And so here's some steps, some best practices perhaps of how you can kind of begin to assessing your business and finding a place to begin with, financial document automation. And so the first thing you do is identify how and where document processes could be improved. This is a very important step, just to assess of what you have now and where things could go from here. So another important part of this is making sure that other infrastructures are in place to help you create this kind of digital foundation to build up with things like document automation. So you need to capture relevant information as early in the process and as close to the first touch point as possible. In the same vein, implement recognition auto-classification technologies that will identify, store information, and trigger related workflows automatically at that time of capture. And then you also need to develop a strategy to leverage, capture, and analyze information across multiple departments for multiple purposes. We really need to embrace the mindset of repurpose, not recreate. And then finally, again, establish that continuous improvement program that will periodically review and refine the changes that you make now. So when a project ends, it should be the beginning of an ongoing process and improvement practice that looks for ways to improve upon that foundation that you set and extend those capabilities to other departments within the organization. So this time I'm going to pass the baton off to Ian again to revisit that whole question about mobile and cloud. And so he's also going to share some case studies to display exactly how, in the real business terms, these financial document automation technologies are creating value for organizations. So Ian, again, returning to that mobile and cloud question, I'd also wager that change management is a big problem, slowing things down in regard to cloud. So what are your thoughts and comments on these results?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Thomas. And there's no surprises in here. So I think 100% of respondents have lack of control and security as primary concerns. So I think lack of control is a interesting kind of perspective. So there's often a perception with moving from kind of on-premise managed solutions to the cloud that as part of that kind of trade-off, that one of the things that is sacrificed is control. Now, at Bottomline, we don't believe that needs to be the case. So kind of our philosophy is that that customers should retain control over their solutions. So kind of the value of moving to a cloud solution is it allows you to focus on kind of higher value activities rather than sort of provisioning technology as such, but it shouldn't compromise your ability to deliver services to your customers, whether they be internal or external, in a compromised way. There doesn't need to be that trade-off. So I think that's kind of very important. And in terms of security, this is kind of absolutely understandable, and I think one of the key sort of I guess mindset changes to an extent around transition from kind of inside the firewall sort of self-managed sort of security to that kind of element of trust where you're handing off data and controller processes to a third party. So again, I would say I think that's something that we take extremely seriously. So to put it in context from our perspective, we offer and operate services on behalf of around 1,000 banks globally, and so being able to provide kind of security of the highest level, and that's security by design of products, by design of the services and kind of the infrastructure, but also in terms of access controls and kind of everything that goes along with that. That's absolutely fundamental, and it's kind of part of the trust that customers place in organizations like Bottomline who provide kind of cloud services. What we also find, though, is that cloud providers such as ourselves often have made significant investments in security, and so it's slightly sort of counterintuitive, but often the security of a third-party cloud service can potentially be higher than an organization may be able to achieve in its own right. So I think there is a shift, there's a clear shift going on, and kind of transition from self-managed, self-provisioned services to the kind of a sort of shift in thinking and shift in sort of emphasis that's focused more on working with key selected cloud providers who've made all the right investments and provisions in terms of security and provisions of controls, which allows organizations to focus more on the benefits that they can realize and less on sort of maybe potentially some of the lower value activities, so that provisioning of infrastructure and kind of all of the stuff that's needed to get to the point where a new service can be implemented. So I think these results are absolutely consistent with what we would expect to see, but I think we would certainly welcome opportunities to work with customers and show how we can address those concerns. Okay, so just moving on, just want to talk about a sort of customer case study. So this is a case study that actually personally have a kind of direct involvement in. So I just want to tell a little story about this. So the gentleman whose quotation is on the right, Joe Claxton, I had the opportunity to go to an industry event in New Orleans last year, and this gentleman approached me on the Bottomline stand and said, "Oh, I understand you offer solutions that give us visibility into our sort of communication with our customers and suppliers." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely we do. How can I help?" And he said, "I'll be back in 5 minutes." And he went away and then came back with a colleague who was the sales director. So Joe was responsible for IT and his colleague was responsible for sales. And they were having a kind of friendly but quite serious debate around how they communicate with their customers. So the sales director was saying our customers say that they don't receive invoices. They frequently don't receive invoices from us, and as a result of that, they quite often end up paying us late. And Joe, who was responsible for IT, said, well, that's very funny because they seem to get all of our other emails. Why would it just be the invoices? So the point around that was that because they didn't have visibility into the process, they didn't know what the cause of the issue was. So they had a suspicion that their customers were sometimes using them to help manage their own cash flow, but they didn't know and they couldn't prove it. So kind of the context for this customer in this case study, a company called James M. Pleasant, or JMP for short. They're a manufacturing company, but they produce advanced steam and hydration systems. So they sell to other businesses, but they're fundamentally a manufacturing company. They've been growing really quickly, which is great, but along with that growth comes stresses on their organization. So as a manufacturing organization, they're not necessarily making huge margins, but in order to fund the kind of production, they quite often have to go and borrow money from banks, get funding, etc., to fund some of the production to service the business that they're growing with, and therefore it's really important that they get paid, quickly and effectively by their customers. So kind of that cash flow collection is really important. And so what they were seeing was, as they were growing, their days sales outstanding, the average number of days it took them to get paid was increasing, and they had to try and manage that because it was impacting cash flow. So we implemented a solution with JMP that allows them to produce and distribute and track their invoices from the kind of creation inside their business systems right the way through to interaction with the customer, so they can see when the invoice was delivered, they can see how the recipient has interacted with it, they can have discussions and collaboration around that. So making sure if their customer has any issues that those can be addressed in a straightforward and timely manner. And ultimately, what that is doing is allow them to identify where the hotspots are. So customers who aren't necessarily paying on time, they can have a conversation with them and say, well, actually, we know you did receive that invoice, so we'd like to understand, why you haven't paid it, because it's not that you didn't receive it. And ultimately, the benefits of that, and I think the kind of standout point here is in the quotation on the right-hand side, their day sales outstanding, they were able to quickly reduce that by 5 days. So on average, they were getting paid 5 days quicker. And in their own words, that correlates to hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in improved cash flow for them. And so the kind of the results and the benefits are fairly clear. They get visibility into the business process, so that not just the status but the value of the invoices that are outstanding. It allows them to increase their responsiveness, so dealing with those queries that their customers may have in a more effective manner by implementing a software as a service, a managed service solution. They had reduced dependency on their IT team, so they were able to implement the solution very quickly within a matter of days. And ultimately, it, as I said, it accelerated their cash flow. So I think this is a real kind of good example of the benefits that can be delivered by implementing or evolving the sort of document output management, communication management solutions that customers utilize, and leveraging the power of the cloud to increase the value and increase the visibility and the control they have over a key business process, such as sales invoicing in this case. But those benefits can apply to many other business processes. So on the other side of the house purchase ordering, for example, so clear interaction with suppliers, ensuring that goods and services are delivered in a timely and efficient manner. That process can be improved by having better visibility into those communications. So I just want to mention a little bit about Bottomline technology. So our mission statement is to help businesses pay and get paid. So we have solutions in a number of areas that help banks right the way down to small organizations manage that process of paying and getting paid. So that includes the actual execution of payments, whether it be by kind of traditional payment checks through to ACH and electronic type payments through to SWIFT and other payment style networks. So we have solutions that help organizations manage that process. But the payment and collection of cash, whilst that's really important, its efficiency is driven by the business process that sits around it. So that's where our financial document automation solutions come into play. So those help organizations manage the process that sits around their financial documents, and that can be everything from production, manufacturing, warehousing and logistics documents like proof of delivery, good receipts notes, bills of lading, right the way through to the more traditional financial documents like purchase orders, sales invoices, statements, etc. So we would love the opportunity to work with anyone who's interested in talking to us more about those solutions. At that point, I'll
step back in here, Ian. Thank you.
Teresa, thank you.
Yes. We've been listening to Ian Bamber of Bottomline Technologies, and then before that we were listening to Thomas Lamont of AIIM. And we're going to take a few questions in just a moment. We have some good questions that have come in here already, but just wanted to mention a couple of things real briefly. Ian, thank you for the fabulous explanation with this case study. Just wanted to let everyone know that the full written out case study with far more details is available to you right now. So just look into the resources list section on your screen, and you can download that case study and read up on what they have that. And remember, just go ahead and click on it now. It's going to open up in a new browser tab for you, and you can download it and read it all after the webinar. And there's some other resources that we have in there from Bottomline. There's another white paper that they have put out there for you to read, and when I look through it, it's another very good resource for you. So encourage you to download that. And also just wanted to offer out here to you some other resources that AIIM has available on our website to help you learn more about the topic here. And there's just some, specifically here I have links to an infographic. So more of the stats that Thomas was talking about are displayed in this infographic. And then also one of the articles that Thomas authored in talking about financial document automation. And so when you download a copy of the slides, you can have the list of these links and click through in the PDF of the presentation there, and you'll have access to all of this information as well. So highly encourage you to go ahead and avail yourself of all of this information. So a lot of good additional resources and reading for you. And I do want to start off with some of the questions that have been coming in. And Ian, let me direct this first question over to you. You had alluded to this and about integration with your system and how that integrates with the other systems that people have in their organizations, things like ERP systems, all those other mission-critical kinds of things that are needed to keep the lights on. Can you just talk about the integration and the ease of the connection and all of that, and how that can work within a company?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. So I think there's probably two answers to that. So one is we see a lot of commonality in terms of the kinds of systems that our customers are using. So quite often it will be to be frank, the usual suspects. So Oracle JD Edwards, Oracle EBS, SAP, the Microsoft Dynamics Solution Suite are some of the common ERPs and line of business systems that we see our customers working with. So we provide kind of out-of-the-box connectivity into those common systems. So it's very much a kind of implementation configuration exercise, kind of out of the box. For customers using systems outside of that, we've got a variety of approaches. So For our cloud solutions, we're a modern cloud-based architecture, so kind of at the lowest level we have APIs available, so sophisticated customers who wanted to take that approach can integrate directly with our APIs. What we then also have is a set of kind of packaged integrations that sit above that. So for our cloud solutions, we have a local agent that can be downloaded, which manages file transfers and provides things like print queues and mail queues and all that kind of good sort of technology type integrations, which can be very simply integrated with. So in the case where a customer may be or a prospect may be sending emails today, they can just redirect those emails to our solution, and it will automatically kind of pick up that content and put it into process. So it can be a really kind of straightforward and lightweight to integrate. So I think the summary of that is we have a range of options, and it's whatever is most appropriate for the particular scenario and I guess level of sort of IT resource need and how tightly integrated the solution needs to be.
Another question I do want to direct over to you, Ian. We talked at length with the financial document automation side of things today. What other types of applications within an organization or other industries are your customers in, just as a point of context for our audience members today so that they can see how this type of solution can be valuable for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So our solutions aren't in any way vertical or process specific. So the reason that we talk about financial document automation quite a lot is that we find a lot of organizations have a particular focus on that. And in terms of being able to demonstrate return on investment, if you're automating processes that have a direct contribution to cash flow, then it's easy to create a financial argument around that. The reality, however, is that we have organizations across a whole range of industries. So typically there will be industries that are quite document process centric, so things like manufacturing, logistics, financial services, but not exclusively so. So it's kind of, we've got customers in pretty much every industry. And in terms of business processes, I would say it's anywhere where there's a need to manage transactional content, and it's usually around communication between, it's that outside the firewall communication typically. So to customers or suppliers, whether it's B2B or B2C, it's taking kind of structured output out of a ERP or line of business system and then communicating that. And by communication, I don't necessarily mean just human communication. Quite often now, in particular around things like, for example, electronic invoicing or processes like that, we're producing kind of a human-readable representation of a document, but then we'll also create a kind of machine-readable version as well. So it might be a PDF with an embedded XML file, something along those lines. So we can create content that's targeted for a kind of variety of audiences.
Thanks. And Thomas, I want to ask this next question of you. And someone's asking for what we've been talking about with the financial document automation, what's a good way to get started? Because this is it's a big thing to tackle. How does someone approach this and get started? Just some tips and ideas there.
Yeah, great question, Teresa. And if I could actually just comment quickly on the last question as well. I wanted to echo Ian in that with our research, we're finding the same type of breakdown to be true. Although finance, that's the place that most of our respondents are saying that's where they're getting started with this automation. HR, it's a huge place. Manufacturing, as Ian mentioned, and records and content management are basically the second, third and fourth basic choices that people are getting started there. So I guess returning to your question about where to get started, definitely what it begins with, in my mind, would be to create a task force or team to bring together some, you have technical people, you have IT people, you have all the stakeholders that would be involved with this project, and unite them under a defined leader who's going to begin kind of moving this product forward. And the first step, honestly, comes with looking and assessing your existing organization, your existing document processes, where documents traffic, where the bottlenecks are, and then just trying to find a realistic goal of where you want to go with that. So if you're anchored to paper processes, then maybe it's trying to move one particular place to a more paperless operation. Or if you have a lot of digital things, but you don't have a lot of findability of that data, for your search, perhaps it's moving to a more document automation solution. But it's targeting kind of these quick wins and trying to find a place where you can trial this out. So it's not going to be an overnight thing. It is a process, but it's about starting small and incrementally ratcheting up your efforts.
Okay. Thank you. We are getting close to the end of our webinar hour, so I just wanted to, we've been listening to Thomas Lamont of AIM and Ian Bamber of Bottomline. I just want to also invite everyone to check out some in-depth training that AIM offers, because in addition, as a way to get started, just more ways to educate yourself and prepare yourself for going down all of these types of projects. On the AIM website, there's a variety of different training options that we have online, in person, we can have a trainer come out to your organization for a bit of our to customize the training for your group. So there's a lot of different ways that we have some of all of this training and education available to you. So I do encourage you to check that out as well. I also just want to remind you that we are recording the webinar. It's going to be available in a day or two on the AIM.org's resources webinars page. Don't forget to download the resources that we have available to you. Lots of great white papers, the case study that's there, just a lot of good information for you. Also the reminder that when we're done, that survey is going to open, and I do value your feedback and appreciate your taking the time to offer that feedback and suggest other topics for us. I do want to thank the underwriter of our webinar today, Bottomline Technologies. Without support from our solution providers, AIM wouldn't be able to bring you these free educational programs like our webinar series. So thank you very much, Bottomline, for your support and sponsorship. And as we do bring the webinar to a close, I just want to leave you with our speakers' closing thoughts or their key takeaways. So let me start first with Thomas Lamont of AIM. Your closing thoughts today.
Thanks, Teresa. So I think kind of echoing what I started with in this presentation, we really do have to learn to love that robot, right? We have to learn to not be afraid of automation and these emerging technologies. The future really is here, and it's paramount that companies begin to take seriously that tired business cliche. How do we work smarter, not harder? And it's time to take that first step and promote greater visibility and control over financial documents and processes. So thank you so much. I hope you join us in the future.
Thanks, Thomas. And Ian Bamber of Bottomline Technologies, your closing thoughts today.
Okay, thanks, Teresa. I think I'd echo what Thomas just said. I think, as I said through the presentation, many organizations have done a good job of managing that inside the firewall process, but with modern technologies, there's an opportunity to evolve, to improve services, to improve business processes by embracing new technology, achieving visibility, and reaching out to customers and suppliers beyond the firewall.
Thank you, Ian. And thank you, everyone, for your time today. For AIM, this is Teresa Resick, and we'll see you next time. So have a great afternoon.